I'm Josh Evans, and I love to help businesses build the right culture within their organizations so they can be more profitable. Do you want more engaged employees? Do you want your company to be more productive? Well, I'm going to show you how to do that. And I'm going to share with you the tools that I've used with hundreds of companies varying in size from 60,000 person conglomerates down to 5-person teams. So get ready and join me so we can build the right culture for your business. Hey, good morning. I'm Joshua Evans, and welcome back to my show. I'm so excited to have you here. So I had this thought come through my head, and I wanted to share it with all of you. Check this out. Just catch it for a moment and let it sit, right? And then marinate. Just listen to this. You cannot be great if you're surrounded by okay. I'll say that again in my deep radio voice. You cannot be great if you're surrounded by okay. And I love that idea. I think too many of us rest on our laurels or accept the situations we're in. We'll give in to that easy path, right? When everybody around me is being mediocre or okay with being mediocre, I'll play to their level. It happens in golf, right? All the time. And I don't even play golf that often, but I'm playing with somebody that's really playing really, really well. I try to rise to their occasion. I end up playing better just because I'm there. But if I'm with somebody who's just, kicking the ball around and out just to drink for 4 hours on a golf course, my game suffers. It's because we play to the level of the people around us. A lot of times, it's not that blatant like a golf course where you just see somebody just shanking it. No, it's a lot more subtle. Like in an office, it's so much more subtle. If you're a manager in an office and you have a team, a group of people, and they're hitting the numbers that you want and they're getting the work completed, I want you to ask yourself, are they doing it at their highest level? Are they doing it at their highest level? Or are they just playing to the level that's expected of them? Because a lot of people play within their expectations. Remember, there's that whole story about Roger Bannister, the first person to break the, the 5-minute mile or 4-minute mile? One of those two. Anyway, the whole story was that nobody thought you could do it. And so everybody was playing to that level. And then after he did it, we had like 19 people break the record that year after he proved everybody that he could do it. And the crazy thing about it is that when we just accept how things are, we're literally saying this is as good as we can do. If we just accept this is how things are, we're literally accepting that mediocrity in our own lives. It's crazy to think that way. And I think people who are comfortable and complacent want other people to be there with them, right? That misery loves company. Well, complacency loves company too. So I'll give you another example. I had a late flight one night, got back home from a speaking event, and I got home, and the next morning I woke up and I'm a bit tired. And so I'm tired. I'm trying to play with the kids, but I'm just exhausted. I'm kind of like sitting there on the couch, and my wife starts cleaning, and I felt horrible. Like she's cleaning, I should be cleaning with her, but I was feeling so lazy, right? So tired. And I had this guilty feeling. I was like, hey, why don't you just sit down and I'll clean with you later? And that same thing happens in businesses too. I've seen in businesses where if somebody is like busting their tail on a big project and they're working hard, the people that aren't working so hard are like, hey, can you back off a little bit? You're making us look bad. I've literally had people say, hey, you're trying a little too hard. Just back off, slow down a bit. Don't tell me to slow down. You speed up. You're just mad because you're not keeping up, because you don't want to. You can't be great if you're surrounded by okay. It's impossible. You can't do it. You can't take a phenomenal individual and plop them down in the middle of a bunch of people that are just punching a clock and expect them to work hard. No, they're going to play to the level of the people around them. And so we shouldn't allow mediocrity onto our teams. We shouldn't allow somebody to be complacent or just to be Cadillacing through life or through their role. Because you can't be great if you're surrounded by okay. Or worse yet, surrounded by mediocre. And so I know I'm getting on the soapbox, but it's crazy to think that there's acceptable behavior out there that is just so far below what people's potential is. And I think that I know I live below my potential. I think most people live below their potential. But I'm trying to reach mine, right? I'm constantly striving and pushing myself to do it. And I think a lot of you probably are as well. But think about your team members, right? If you're in a managerial role, any sort of leadership role, you're surrounded, or maybe you're in a team of people, think about the worst performing individual, the one that cares the least. Because, I mean, they talk about that's the weak link. Absolutely. Everybody's going to lower themselves down to that standard. If you got rid of that person and replaced them with a super high achiever, somebody who's ambitious and excited and moving, like the speed of light, what do you think the rest of your team would do? I'll tell you what your team would do. Your team would start playing at that level. They would start to grow. They would start to get better. You would see huge changes in numbers and productivity. All because that individual is allowing people to be way below the potential. You cannot be great if you're surrounded by okay. You can't. So here comes the, the $10,000 question or $42 million question, right? How can I fix it? How can I surround myself with great people? How can I be more inclined to be great? Well, I've got a couple tips for you. You ready? First, you need to be selective about the people you spend time with. I know it's hard if you're in an office environment to be selective about the individuals that are sitting in the cubicles around you or in an office next door to you. It can be hard to do that. But you know who you can select? The people you go get coffee with. You can select the people you go get lunch with. The people that you spend time with outside of work. All those things are within your control. And you need to be cognizant of those things. Because if you just choose to hang out with any Tom, Dick, or Harry that's hanging out in your office, and they're super complacent, or they don't really care about the goals of the business, or they're not ambitious, I promise you won't be ambitious either. So I'll give you an example. Back when I was in college, it was 15, 20 years ago, there's this guy, Bill. And Bill is a nice enough guy, right? He'd pick up his end of the check or whatever. But he always wanted to complain about like his latest problem, right? Like he had lost a wallet. Oh, that sucks, man. That's terrible, right? Like, oh, my girlfriend and I are fighting. We're having problems. Or now me and my girlfriend broke up. My car got towed the other day. And while these are all terrible things, these are all very negative things. He wasn't bringing positive energy to the table. And so if we're out on like a Friday night and he's sitting there just lamenting about this trial and tribulations of his life, I don't really want to hang out with you anymore. And after a couple of months, like, we stopped hanging out with Bill. I didn't invite him around. You know why? Because he was negative. He was dragging me down. His mediocrity, his accepting of these situations didn't put me in a good place. And we need to do that with ourselves. We need to rid ourselves of the people in our lives that are pulling us down, that are holding us back. Because you can't be great if you're surrounded by okay. And that includes the people in your life. I'm not saying never go to, a family Christmas again because Aunt Tilly is always a little out there. No, I'm saying in your free time, in the time that you have available, you need to avoid people like that. The second thing you can do, right? Own your surroundings. I don't mean go buy your office building. Though if you can, maybe you should because commercial real estate's great. But own your surroundings. Take ownership of the things around you that can impact you. I'll give you an example. I was recently giving a talk at this corporate event, and I was in their corporate building and said, here, we got you some workspace so you can hang out. You can work, between your sessions, because I had 2 different sessions. I said, great. And so they put me in, and it was this dim, full cubicle farm. And there's only and there's probably 50 cubes in there, and there's only 3 people working in there, and now me. And so it's like quiet, and everything's beige, and you get those flickers of fluorescent light, and it's just like, this is my nightmare. This takes me back to 3 years out of college when I was sitting in this huge cubicle farm having to answer phones. It is brutal. And I'm sitting like, oh my God, how can these people that work here? I could just feel the environment kind of like crushing my will to live. And I was like, this is absolutely horrible. I'm not saying get rid of all cubicles, though you should. But I'm saying that environment was a horrible environment to have people working in. How can they expect great things? How am I supposed to come in there and motivate these employees to communicate more effectively, to be aspirational about the work that they're doing, if they're sitting in a gray box in the world of beige? Like, the one thing that this environment screamed out at me was mediocrity. You know who's complacent in that situation? Whoever's designing their offices. It was absolutely abhorrent. I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to call them out or because they are a client. But this is something they should change, right? Environment matters. We have to take ownership of our surroundings, right? Own your surroundings. And yeah, some people decorate their cubes. That's great. Some people, but you need to really take ownership of it, right? Whether it's leaving in the middle of the day because you have to go recharge at like a Starbucks or go sit in some green space or whatever it might be. But that sort of a situation is terrible. Oh, it gives me the heebie-jeebies just thinking about it. Okay. Lastly, don't work to appease others. Don't work just to make somebody else happy. Because here's the thing I found. Every manager I've worked for ends up accepting less than my best as good enough. If I was just working to appease them, if it wasn't like a personal conviction, I wouldn't work that hard. And if you're working for somebody else's expectations, if you're working for somebody else's goal for you, it's a very hollow victory. It's a hollow victory. You don't actually appreciate it. You don't want it. You don't like it. Right? Don't work to appease others. Work to appease yourself. Because if you truly take it on, you'll work harder than anybody else can push you to work. Interesting, huh? So let's go. Just walk back through these real quick with me. All right? Because you can't be great if you're surrounded by okay. First, be selective of the people you spend time with. Own your surroundings. And don't work to appease other people. So I had lunch recently with an old colleague. He was pretty high up at a company that I used to work for, I don't know, 6-7 years ago. And that company that I worked for got bought. And they moved to another, they moved into another organization's fold. And now they've lost, I'd say, 40 to 50% of their staff. And they're not able to grow right now. And they're having to report to a company that has no bearing in this industry, or at least in this part of the industry. And they're all just kind of sitting there waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? Waiting to get fired, waiting for them to dismantle more of this organization, right? Or this piece of the organization that got brought into the fold. And so now my buddy Jim, we're sitting there over lunch, and he's like, man, it's absolutely terrible. Like, nobody wants to be there. People are kind of just dropping off weekly. Somebody's leaving to go find work somewhere else, which is to be honest with you, that's probably the best thing for those people is to get out of this environment. But he described it as corporate welfare. Like they're just keeping them on life support. There's no feeling of growth or opportunity or excitement. How on earth can you expect your team to succeed in that sort of environment? If they feel so worried about their future, how can you expect them to go do great things? To go sell those products, to make that company viable, to make that product and service line viable for the bigger company that bought them. You can't. You've put terrible things in place that is just holding people back. He's like, Josh, what do you think I should do? And I was like, you need to absolutely get out of there. You need to leave immediately. Go find another job. Go find something, because you know what? Your personal stock will go up the second you leave to go somewhere better. So you can go somewhere better as a holding pattern, right? Or as a landing pad just for a brief moment, right? And use that as a stepping stone to get to the next really amazing role. But you cannot stay there. The longer you stay there, the more likely you're going to accept something bad to get out of there. You cannot be great if you're surrounded by okay. And so if you find yourself in a situation that's just screaming mediocrity or forcing you into complacency, you need to change. Change your environment. Get out of there. Do something new. So if you're like this, right? If you're like Jim, where you're in this place where it just feels just depressing or oppressive, and it's holding you back, you have to get out of there sooner than later. You have to. Go find a place that allows you to really be excited about it, to really put forth your best effort, because you can't be great if you're surrounded by okay. Anyway, I know this was kind of a soapbox day, but I like it. Yes, I'm excited about it, and I hope you're excited about it. Go out there and go find a way to be great, because you can't be great if you're surrounded by okay. So shun all the okay stuff and only strive for the amazing. Only strive for the awesome. Go after the great. Well, thank you so much for joining me on my show. I'm Joshua M. Evans. If you want a way to reach out to me, you can hit me up on our email, info@joshuamevans.com. Check us out online, joshuamevans.com, or hit us up on any social media @EnthusiasticU. Well, have a great rest of your day. We'll see y'all next week.